Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul. Hopefully having an amazing day. I want to kick this video off with the official announcement of the Ryzen 9950X3D as well as the 9900X3D. AMD now have confirmed that both of these processors will be available on the 12th of March, so just under a week from now. And furthermore, the pricing is very good indeed. So we're looking at $700 US for the 9950X3D and $600 US, I'm rounding up of course, for the 9900X3D. And to put this into some level of context, how does it compare against the previous generation? The exact same amount. So the 7950X3D, of course, based on the Zen 4 microprocessor architecture, was $700, and the 7900X3D was also $600. So basically speaking, AMD did good here. Now, whether, of course, the stock is going to be high and whether we're going to see any shortages, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But as for the specifications, the maximum boost clock is a 5.7 gigahertz with a grand total of 144 megabytes of cache. Meanwhile, the 9900X3D is going to be 5.5 gigahertz for the maximum boost clock and 140 megabytes of cache. That's of course because a couple of the cores for the 9900X3D are disabled, and we're looking at 170 watts TDP default, and of course 16 cores, 32 threads, 12 cores, 24 threads respective. But Paul, I have you say, how does this compare against the 9800X3D? Well, this is where things become quite interesting. Now, obviously, boost behavior of processors is dependent on, well, let's just say a lot of things. But the advertised base frequency for the 9800 is 4.7 gigahertz. I'll repeat that. The base frequency is 4.7 and the boost frequency is 5.2. So theoretically anyway, we actually have an increase in the boost clock, but it seems the base frequency may be a bit lower. It's going to be very interesting to see how this processor actually performs in real world workloads. I've heard from a couple of people that gaming performance is roughly similar, but that's not too surprising because once again, it's not like games are going to be really spilling onto like 24 threads or what have you anyway. So realistically, it's not too surprising. However, this processor is going to be absolutely phenomenal for those of us who do content creation or just want additional threads. That said, I think for the sweet spot for most gamers, the 9800X3D is probably going to be the CPU that I think is probably going to be the most popular. It also has a lower TDP, and of course the price is also pretty cheap. There are also some pretty good deals going around as well. And I want to cover actually just a really quick thing regarding the pricing and the situation of the RX 9070 graphics cards. So the 9070 as well as the XT went on sale yesterday, and as you probably can tell if you don't know, I live in the UK, and basically I essentially had about as much luck trying to purchase one of these cards across several different retailers as what I would have had trying to stop a nuclear reactor from melting down by offering it a pack of chewing gum. In other words, it didn't really go too well for me. I'll spare you all of the details about this, but while some folks have said that, you know, there wasn't many cards available and all that stuff, I don't believe that that's true. I've got several friends who are in different regions, Australia, Canada, several in America, and especially for in-store availability, it was pretty good. However, Europe, it was pretty much hit and miss. And unfortunately, some UK retailers, basically speaking, their website just went down. I think scalpers were also a thing. And I'll probably cover this more extensively in a future video. But I just want to mention this real quick. Long story short, there's been a lot of confusion as to the fact that the pricing of some of these cards became more expensive. And long story short, what I think is going to be happening is that AMD will ensure, the best of their ability anyway, that the MSRP pricing being launch only is not a thing. I'm going to read out a statement here from Frank Azer. It is inaccurate that 549 and 599 MSRP is a launch only pricing. We expect cards to be available in multiple vendors at those prices, excluding region specific tariffs and or taxes. Based on the work we have done with our AIB partners, more are coming. At the same time, AIBs have different premium configurations available at higher price points, and those will also continue, end quote. I think that at this point, I'm going to give AMD the benefit of the doubt and say that they will do their best to ensure this is going to happen. I do understand it's frustrating. Again, I tried to pick up one of the cards as well, and I just had absolutely no luck. And believe me, guys, I know how frustrating it can be. I tried to pick up a 5090. I had absolutely no luck. I've tried the 9070 XTs, and again, I've had no luck. So I'm with you. Frustration is just a fact, unfortunately. It's going to be very interesting to see how quickly these cards are replenished. That said, unfortunately, a number of cards did end up, of course, as you would expect, on eBay. But overall, I think AMD did pretty well with the launch. I'll be very interested to see, however, how quickly they can replenish the cards at this price point. I'm curious to hear your experiences of this. How many of you actually managed to get a card if you were trying to purchase one? How many of you were out of luck? And also, for those of you who did or didn't have luck, what region were you in? And what strategies did you use? I'm curious how many of you just went to the store, because a couple of people I know who actually were successful, especially at getting a card at MSRP, they literally just physically went down to the shop, and that seemed to be the best strategy. Unfortunately, in the UK, that's not necessarily that helpful, even though I live in London. Let's just say retailers aren't as good as in America. With that said, I want to finish the video with some Nvidia news. So there are a couple of very interesting things that are going on in the land of Nvidia. Firstly, the 5060 Ti is said to have an announcement within the next 10 or so days. And also we're going to have various 50 series cards as well, both TI and non-TI. Harikaze 5719 has done a pretty nice write-up with all of the various specifications. So starting with the 5060 Ti just briefly, 8 and 16 gigabyte variants. Honestly, I think with the 5060 Ti, 8 gigabytes is probably not going to be the GPU that I would opt for, but it also launches first. It's going to be in the second half of March. So, you know, we're going to know how well it performs pretty soon. 128-bit bus. And 8 gigabytes is going to be available in the first half of April. Meanwhile, the 5060 is going to have 8 gigabytes only. It's still got the same bus width, 145 watts. So I can actually see this being quite useful in light gaming, or perhaps if you're going to be hooking this up to like a 1080p display, maybe for other things as well, not necessarily just gaming. 145 watts is perfect for a small form factor system. Second half of April, and allegedly it's going to cost just $299 US. I mean, it's not like that's super cheap for a card of this class, but it's not as bad as it could be. I mean, yeah. 5050 is TI and non-TI. 199 to 250 bucks, and that's going to also be in the second half of April. 135 watts, and again, 8 gigs of RAM. That said, I think a 5050, I'm okay with that. Like a 5050 having 8 gigabytes of memory, that's fine. It doesn't have, it just doesn't even have enough SM or compute power really to, like, let's just say you're not going to be running a game at 4K with ray tracing, are you, on a card like this? Having said that, even so, some games can be really demanding in VRAM. Like, one game that really just comes to mind all of the time for me is Resident Evil 2. Even though the game is not that demanding, if you start cranking up any of the texture quality settings, the GPU can start choking pretty quickly. As full disclosure, I'm actually testing an RTX 5070 right now, and yeah, I'm a little late. I got sent the card a little bit late, and then some other stuff happened as well, so I'm running a little bit behind. Again, the card's actually reasonable. Like the 5070 that I have is from Gigabyte, and it overclocks very well. It's the biggest problem with the card by far is the VRAM. It just has 12 gigabytes. If it had 16 gigabytes, the card would be significantly better, at least in my personal opinion. That said, guys, I think that's just about it for this particular video. Apologies for being audio only, but hopefully normal service shall resume tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.